I grew up in a Christian home. I don't ever remember not knowing about Jesus, and I don't ever remember not knowing that Jesus loved me. That's the kind of home I grew up in. We went to church every time they had church. And this was at the First Baptist Church of Warren, Arkansas, which is in southeast Arkansas over toward Mississippi. And it was a small town, 8,500 people, but it was a big church. We had over 1,000 members. I guess everybody was a Baptist. But, and strong preachers. When I was a kid, James Draper, Jimmy Draper's dad, was our preacher. And then he was followed by Bailey Smith, and at that little town. But when I was 6 years old, that summer they had a big citywide revival, and it was at the fairgrounds under a tent. And I think it went for 2 weeks, and we went every night, and they had the funeral fans, and the music was by John Bisagno, who was later the pastor at First Baptist Houston, but he was a trumpet player at this. And the evangelist was Hyman Appleman. And huge crowds and a lot of people going forward at the invitation time, including a lot of the older kids at our church. And I started asking my parents, I said, I want to go down there. And because I was 6, I think they were worried that I was too young. And but I persisted, and by the end of it, they let me go forward, and I was baptized. Continued to go to church for everything, be involved in everything in church. When I got to be a teenager, I began to have doubts about my salvation, and they were serious. And rather than just taking care of it, I spent all my time rationalizing it. And I would say the plan of salvation over and over, just like every day I would go through it. And I was sick with conviction. And it went for years. And finally, when I was 16 years old, we were having another revival. This one was at our church. And it was on a night that it was a music special. And I'm not musical, so it wasn't like I was so moved by the music. I think it was just literally years of holding off what I needed to do. But the church was completely packed. We were sitting in the balcony. I was sitting with other youth. And that night I said, and I think one reason I didn't want to straighten it out, I was, involved in everything, like all the youth stuff, and I didn't want anybody to, what would they think? What would they say? But on that night, nothing mattered, and I said, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. I want to be saved, and I need to be, and I just surrender it all. And I came all the way down to the front, and Bailey Smith baptized me. And I've never doubted it since.